Global energy prices remain elevated as Iran's new supreme leader vows to keep the Strait of Hormuz closed. In his statement today, Iranian state media's statement attributed to Mojtaba Khamenei said the maritime passage will continue to be used as a, quote, tool to pressure the enemy. International Brent oil prices extended their gains following his statement, topping $100 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate, the U.S. benchmark of national oil prices, rose by a similar margin, topping $95 a barrel. Americans continue to see higher prices at the pump. According to AAA, the national average price per gallon hit nearly $3.60 today. It marks a 2-cent rise from yesterday and a 35-cent rise from last week. Yesterday, the president ordered the release of 172 million barrels of oil from the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve to curb rising prices. Energy Secretary Chris Wright says those releases will begin next week and take roughly 120 days. Laura Sanicola joins us now. She's a senior writer for Barron. So, Laura, President Trump's release from the reserve also comes as the 32-member countries of the International Energy Agency also say they'll release some 400 million barrels from their reserves. But you're right that the current crisis might be one the reserves weren't designed to fix. Why?
That's correct. The reserves are meant for a supply crisis, and we certainly are in one. However, one could argue right now what we really have is a logistics and shipping crisis, and that's because as was noted earlier in the program, about 20% of seaborne oil flows through that Strait of Hormuz right in Iran's territory. That is really critical, and it's not something that additional barrels on the market can necessarily fix, although some of the countries in Asia that are going to be releasing barrels, that should have an impact in their region, but it's not a fix for everybody in every country.
I touched on this with Ellie, but you report that some vessels are getting through. Which ones?
I mean, very few. And as of the past few days, almost none. There's a daily update that I've been reading. I think there's been one commercial vessel that's gone through, 0 oil tankers. And of course, there are parts of the Iranian shadow fleet and other vessels that are carrying commercial goods that opt to turn their satellite signals off, which you're not meant to do, and that makes it a little bit harder to track. But even with the data that we do have, it shows that very few boats are really making a run for it, in part because of the risk is really that elevated. There are boats, on fire in the region, as of the last 24 hours.
Are oil prices expected to remain high as long as the strait remains closed? Are there any workarounds? And is that sort of what Iran is banking on?
Yeah, the administration in the U.S. and across the world, global administrations are trying to come up with workarounds. But this is something that's been in Iran's back pocket for decades. I mean, really, as long as we've been having conflicts in that region. Like I mentioned, it's a critical choke point. They are able, with very few resources, to disrupt shipping. All it takes is some mines, drones, anything really to deter vessels from getting through by wounding passengers or impacting cargo. It doesn't have to be something big and fiery, but it's enough to control a very, very, very narrow waterway that's directly in their region. So yes, what the world really needs for prices to go down is the strait to be reopened, because unlike in 2022, when we put sanctions on Russian energy and oil prices spiked, oil markets are fungible. There were workarounds that were able to be done. Here, it's a very narrow, 1 mile that ships can really get through that strait. 20% of global oil needs to get through it. It's really key for that to be resolved quickly.
Laura Sanicola, thank you.